Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Her Hoop Stats podcast. We have a very special edition of the podcast today. It is a reunion for our OG listeners. For those of you who have been around for, this past year, you will know that the three of us who are here, I'm Chelsea Leite, I'm here with Tyler DeLuca and Jamie Steyer Johnson, and we used to have a podcast, the three of us, every single week called The Press Break, and it was so much fun. We moved on to kind of do our 5-day-a-week format when the WNBA started, and we thought it would be fun to come and do a reunion episode, Thanksgiving special, if you would. And we're just going to bring it back to old times, talk hoops. We're going to talk college hoops. We're going to talk WNBA hoops. And we're going to ensure that chaos ensues because it's the three of us. And yeah, that's basically it. So welcome. If you're, if you've never seen the three of us before, get ready. If you're an OG Press Break listener, happy to have you here. Let's talk. What WNBA draft? Are we ready?
Let's do it.
There's
like a million things going on right now in the world of women's basketball.
There's so much happening.
Yeah,
which really brings us back to the OG Press Break pod.
It feels like it, right? Like not knowing what exactly to like. I mean, like you have Team USA, you have the Mercury turning into a fast food company. You have like all these different things. Like there's
so many things.
What's going on? But I think the draft lottery tops it right now.
Tops it out. Yeah, draft lottery happened. We're recording this on Monday. It happened last night, 6:30 p.m. It was on ESPN in America, TSN in Canada. And yeah, it was a fun time. I mean, I always with that special, I'm always like, oh, okay, it's half an hour. Like, how long is this going to take? And then they talk for the first 15 minutes, and then the picks happen in 4 seconds, and then it's over. And I'm always like, does this have to be televised? But sure. But yeah, it's. I mean, it went exactly as we thought it would.
Literally chalk, yeah. Like nothing shocking whatsoever.
Yeah. For if you haven't seen it, it's Dallas got the number 1 pick again. Minnesota got number 2 because they absolutely fleeced Chicago in a trade last year. Seattle got the 3rd pick because they didn't as much fleece LA, but they got LA's pick. Washington has their own pick at 4, and then Chicago got back into the lottery by taking Connecticut's pick. And that's our lottery. 5 teams, first year with a 5 team lottery in probably quite a while. And yeah, that's how the cookie crumbled last night. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that, first of all, I think that Paige Becker's story of
the Pope,
on their side,
I thought that was so.
Sister Segrist was. I mean, she brought the luck. Like
she did bring the luck.
I love that. I love that so much. Like
because, yeah.
If anything else, I'm here for content. I thought that was just very well done. And then beyond that, it definitely makes things interesting in a lot of ways. Like the draft is going to be interesting regardless because we have new teams coming in. We have more teams than we've obviously had in the past with those new teams coming in. We still don't even know exactly how things are going to look as far as the draft, when it's going to be, all of that, because we don't have a CBA. I think that's kind of what puts a damper on everything for me, is that we don't have a CBA and we don't really seem to be super close to one. And so everything is just very madly speculative, which it's always speculative, but when you don't even know the exact rules that are going to be governing things, it's really hard to take it seriously. But it will be it will be interesting just to see how some of these players develop over the course of the season. Obviously, having Awa Fam in the conversation makes things very, very interesting with, you're generally speaking about a lot of domestic products, a lot of domestic prospects. And now all of a sudden you're kind of throwing a wrench in things. And so it kind of depends on the outlet, I think, how much credence is given to that. We're seeing a lot of shuffling right now in some of those draft projections. But all I'm saying is if it all works out where perhaps Lauren Betts ends up in Minnesota, I wouldn't be devastated. I wouldn't even be a little bit upset.
No. See, here's the thing with the projections happening right now is like, so the draft lottery happens last night, and then ESPN does their like updated mock draft, which then puts AZ Fudd at the first pick, and she had an incredible weekend. Like, here's my it's just like, I don't know, because everything is so speculative right now. I have such a hard time being like, this person deserves to be number one over whatever, because we have no idea how any of these teams are going to look. We don't know who's going to be signed to what team and what the team needs are going to be. And again, like, we don't even, like you said, we don't even know the rules really. Like, we don't know if draft eligibility is going to change. We don't know if, like, who knows? They might add a bunch of years of eligibility and people decide to stay. I don't know. Like, it's just, and like the thing that we also don't know is, like, they said like Portland and Toronto are going to be like, you know, they're going to do a coin flip again with the coin flip gate. We had this last year at the SEC. I can't with coin flip.
I still want that coin, by the way. I want that SEC coin. Like, I want it in my background. I don't know how I get it, but I still want that coin.
If you're listening at SEC,
I want it.
Give Tyler the coin. Then I want the coin they use for this one. You know what? Let's each get a coin.
Okay. Jamie, we'll have to find you a coin somewhere. I don't know.
We gotta get Jamie's
manufacture
coin.
Another coin.
I frankly would be fine with not having anything governing my sports life being tied to a coin.
Yeah,
this is fair. However, this is the world we live in.
This is the world we live in.
I want that damn coin.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to have a coin governing something like that, I would want the coin.
Yeah.
But not at the cost of having to suffer
actually
through the coin flip.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fair.
Yeah, but like I think the interesting thing, I like being in a year where we don't have like a overly presumptive number one pick like we have the past few years, because like obviously then it lends to a lot of like speculation and analysis and yada yada yada. And but at the same time, it's like way too early to, like, there's people on my Twitter feed being like, AZ Fudd is the number one pick, and if you don't think so, and I get that there's a lot of like fandom happening and yada yada yada, but like, yeah, I just think it's like, it's just, again, like Jamie said, it's just a weird conversation to be having right now when the CBA is like so far from being signed.
Well, and I think like the phrasing of it too is what always kind of gets me, of like, if you want to discuss like, hey, this is what it looks like right now, or like, hey, have we thought about like this could be a good fit, as opposed to like how everyone wants to speak in absolutes.
Yes. Oh my God, it's so annoying.
That's what kind of gets me.
Yeah. Oh man. You know what?
I'm just deciding not to have a top pick though. This is the first time in a while where it's like, we haven't had like a true like cut number one pick.
Yeah,
like,
it was like Paige, Caitlin, Aaliyah.
Like, I feel like if you went through like the WNBA draft history, I feel like the majority of those drafts you're gonna have a pretty clear cut number one. Like, if like just off the top of my head, like just kind of generally thinking. But I also feel like because of that, this is also one of the first drafts in a minute where like that number one pick could be traded. Like there's that's not like, or like these lottery picks could be moved. Like that is not a unreal scenario by any means.
Especially for a while. The new like CBA, like who knows what you could be getting out of it. Yeah. And in Dallas, you know, they've got 5 players under contract. Like they have more things solidified than pretty much any other team does right now. So it definitely would be, there's potential in there, but it's another one of those things that it's just sort of a waiting game.
Yeah. And it's also like, I feel like the CBA, and also like if the core designation is still a thing, if players get cored and want to move, like if we have another Satu situation where a player really wants to move, and like that could also affect trade talks. You also like, I feel like players are kind of holding their desires kind of close to the chest right now, because again, they want the CBA to be like figured out before they start talking about free agency. But like, I feel like there's going to be a ton of team movement this offseason, not just with free agency, but like trades and people wanting to go different places. And
we haven't even mentioned the fact that there's an expansion draft.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was just going to say that.
5. Like this is, I mean, it's actually ridiculous. Like I don't know what you're going to look like. I'll tell you right now, with that all in mind though, I don't look, you're obviously happy to have the number one pick, but I don't exactly envy Dallas' position here. As opposed to like being like Minnesota or even Seattle, really. Yeah. Like because if you're like Seattle, like you're kind of okay with any of those, like the top 3, the presumptive top 3, but even like you can look at those guards behind, like Olivia Miles. So look, Dallas, again, you obviously are never mad at having the number 1 pick, but the pressure that comes with that, and with these top 3 players specifically, you don't want to be the team that frankly picks the worst of those 3. Like, and I think there's like decent floors for all 3 of these players, but like if there's one player that just kind of explodes past the ceiling, and you were the one with the number 1 pick and didn't pick them, when realistically you can make a case for all 3 of the top 3 players to fit on this Dallas roster, I'd be sick.
Well,
and so like there's a degree of pressure there that is
not just that, but like the fact that wouldn't be a first for Dallas.
Yep.
At all.
Nope.
I mean, we keep getting these number 1 picks here in Dallas for a reason. It hasn't exactly been a successful organization, and I'm interested in seeing now, because this is, I mean, obviously the most recent that you've seen of this was Indiana getting the back-to-back number 1 picks, and this is your second one, right? Like there was obviously so much comparison between like Caitlin and Paige, and so much of that discourse, but like Paige was the first pick that was going there. Like now you're getting your second player that is. Your hope is that this is the player that you put next to Paige Beckers for the rest of their careers to go and win you championships in Dallas. Like it's not like you can't, like this is a massive moment, not only for like Dallas as a franchise, but for Paige Beckers and her career, like and whoever ends up getting picked there. Like this is such an obviously pivotal moment that, again, I don't envy the pressure of being Dallas right now. Like being Minnesota or Seattle, you're living a good life knowing that you're getting one of those 3.
And like for me, I think the pressure is not just on it. Like I feel like there's so much pressure on Dallas right now as an entire organization to make sure, because I feel like, I mean, Caitlin Clark is definitely bought into like the Indiana kind of vibe. They very quickly made that like her place. Like that is very solidified. I feel like Dallas is in a situation now where they need to make sure that they are doing everything in their possibility to make sure that they are an organization that Paige Beckers wants to stay at. Because the reality of the situation is that you have this pick at the end of this 2026 season. Paige Beckers is halfway through her rookie contract, and if the unhappiness, if there's any sort of unhappiness there and they don't fix it immediately, then you have very, like, I feel like we're talking about 4 years. It seems like a lot of time, but these rookie contracts go so fast. And if you get to the point where Paige Beckers is going into free agency and is not 100% happy with the situation that is happening in Dallas, obviously she becomes the best number 1 free agent in the market and could easily move. And so if you're Dallas, you want to make sure you're getting a coach in there that is long-term, that Paige Beckers wants to be coached by. You're in a situation where the roster is making improvements every year and getting into a playoff spot very quickly, and that you're drafting someone that she wants to be playing with and, suits her style well. And so there's a lot of pressure for things to be happening very quickly here in a situation where CBA, are being renewed. They're now on their second coach of the Paige Beckers era. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I don't know.
And like, that's not even talking about like team facility and arena and treatment and yada, yada, yada. Like there's so many factors that go into these. And obviously these players talk, and there's so many other situations around the league that they're comparing notes with. So these organizations have pressure on them to be doing the best so that these star players that they get want to stay.
And I think like my last point on that exact subject is also that people need to also remember this is about basketball. This is like professional basketball. And so Izzy Fudd definitely has a great case to potentially be a number 1 pick, depending on how everything shakes out this year. One of the top qualifiers should not be any pre-existing relationship with Paige Beckers. Like, first of all, super reductive. Second of all, just not the way that professional athletics works. Like, if you want to talk about the fact that like they know each other well, they've played together, like all of that, yes,
sure, but
it's not going to be solely based on.
Yeah, and there's also a narrative going around that Paige is going to dictate who the team picks.
That's kind of my point, is that that's just kind of ridiculous. Like, you want to make her happy, but she wants to win. She is a professional. Like, she knows that there's going to be a lot of different options there.
Yeah. If the Dallas Wings come to Paige and they say X player, Lauren Betts, Awafam, whatever, is the best player for you, she's not gonna be like, no. Like, you know? So yeah, I feel like that's an important thing to note as we head into this. But at the same time, the draft feels so far away. You have the expansion draft, which would be next, but then the CBA is first.
You know, we have a season. Like,
yeah,
we have
a
whole
league.
Other thing. We have a league. Like, what? Like, I mean, like, what are we doing? Like, when they were asking I'm blanking on her name, so I apologize. But the representative for the WNBA, when Malika Andrews was like interviewing her like before the lottery, and she was like, are we confident that we're gonna get this done by this deadline? We're working really hard. But like, what's your level of confidence? Well, we're working really hard. Like, and I understand, like, I don't know, like, what you exactly expect her to say in that moment. But goodness gracious, I was not inspired by any. I was no confidence was brought to me whatsoever. So I just hope we have a league still to like have this drafting and go from there.
I think and there's so much chaos happening with the actual CBA itself. Like, all of this stuff last week about like them publicizing that offer with 1.1 million.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
And then, you know, and the thing is that I think before we move on to college, I just want to make a note that like everything that gets leaked to the media is being leaked very intentionally. Like, I don't think people sometimes in the general public realize that information is very...
It's all tactical.
Yeah, it's all tactic from both sides. I'm not saying the league or whatever. No, it's both tactic. And so the WNBA, you know, leaks certain information about the deal that they put out. People are going to have their opinions on it. I would really love for people to just like really research as much as information is out before they're like, the players are ungrateful, blah, 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 blah. They should accept the 1.1 million. But yeah, I think it's so much more... There's so much more nuance to it than I think people think. Like, people think, oh, like, that's such an increased salary, they should just take it and be grateful. Like, no, we have to talk about like percentage of league growth and money and revenue and media rights deals and yada yada yada. So I just it's very complicated right now. But yeah, a league that is going and isn't going through this, I don't know if you call it a league, but college basketball happens still.
Yay! Going, you go from CBA to NIL. Let's ride.
Woo! Yeah, I mean, what a time to be a college basketball fan. This weekend was wild.
Yeah, finally. I feel like non-con's been kind of to be honest. Like we haven't had all like your kind of top matchups. Like, I think conference play is going to be the normally, like, I feel like when you look at like your marquee matchups, like, obviously you have like your top teams in each conference and everything, but I feel like non-con, you can usually circle a couple more, but like this was the weekend and really, I mean, the doubleheader was like, okay, this is fine. Like, this is the one we've had circled. Like, these are the two games, and they both absolutely delivered.
Yeah, well, I was talking with Coach last week on the pod about how like I would like some of these teams to schedule themselves like a teensy-weensy bit of a harder non-con schedule.
No, absolutely harder non-con. They're playing like... No. Everyone needs to lock in. We are still at a point with women's basketball. No, this is gonna get me going because like we're still at a point with women's basketball where it's important to schedule these matchups in terms of visibility, in terms of the talk, the discourse, like that. Like, I understand, like, not every matchup has to be top 10, but like to a degree, like just in general, and like obviously, like if you're thinking of a school, then think of it. I'm talking very generally here. Like, I just want these schools to play each other because it matters. It matters for the sport that people aren't like just kind of ducking different schools and whatnot. It matters.
Well, and I mean, the thing with that too is that requires a lot of teams to have buy-in on that, because obviously you can't just like unilaterally schedule someone. And then the other issue at play is that you have very different selection criteria for the women's postseason than you do on the men's side. And so you have fewer metrics that you could use, which kind of help to balance out the fact that maybe some people play harder or easier schedules. And so there's also this level of, you can be kind of punished for having a tough schedule. And just depending on what your opportunities are to balance that out, it's kind of a tough sell sometimes. And so I think that there's a lot of like smaller kind of infrastructure issues that go into it.
Yeah,
but
it's not cut and dry by any means.
Whatever needs to happen to facilitate that is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because we can't go this long without like top matchups. We can't have people out there just sort of duck and smoke, but also you have to incentivize people to schedule these games. And a lot of that goes into the postseason selection criteria, which is always a soapbox of mine that I'll save.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, we'll save that for February. But I mean, going back to the weekend though, like this was the best weekend of the season so far. And I'm not just saying this because I had the Chelsea Bowl on Friday. The Chelsea Bowl of what Tyler's going to call my bias up in here.
I will call it that, yes.
And also, before we hit record, he was like, you have no right to be blah, blah, blah.
Well, okay, well, no, hold on. Let me get the context here. Because you're like, oh, look, all of our teams have a top 10. I was like, well, hold on. Which team are you talking about? I don't know which team you're even claiming here. Because you weren't burdened with being born somewhere and being like, this is your team. So you got to pick UConn. Are we so serious right now? And like, I don't even know what team you're talking about when you're claiming that.
You at least have like a level of proximity to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yes. So, that's fine. However, I don't know what team you're talking about. You got a whole Chelsea Bowl. Like, what are we doing?
We do have a Chelsea Bowl, and it was fun. It was the best game of the season.
It
just shows that I have good taste.
Okay, sure. You should
have came out from that game and said, you know what? Chelsea has a point.
That's right. That actually should have been our only takeaway from that game. Was that, you know what? Chelsea's right.
I was right about, UConn being a good team, even though I picked them back.
What a take.
Bold.
Ooh. Look, I come on here and I defend my girl Silah Swords, and she said, "You know what? I'm gonna do my big one for you, Chelsea."
What are you defending her against?
Yeah, who's against Silah Swords? Like, what?
Look, all of you Americans come in and you try to be like,
whoa! Oh my goodness! Look, we got problems down here, but I never got a problem with Silah Swords. I never said anything about this game, Silah. What? Whoa! I said, you Americans! Oh, great heavens!
Chelsea hasn't pulled out the Canadian flag yet, but she acts like we're about to pull out a flag that just says.
Yeah, I'm not repping it like this. Okay, I promise you, I'm not. Like.
Anyway, let's talk about the game.
Let's.
By all means.
So, anyways, this was probably going to be, I mean, given Michigan's season so far from a non-biased perspective, this is arguably their biggest test of the year so far. After getting absolutely, like, I don't know what the word is for that first quarter from Michigan, but they come back, hold UConn to 4 points in the third quarter, and my girl Silah Swords comes out.
It's you Americans. You see this? You have a whole flag, and yet it's us that are being the nationalists. What are we doing? Like,
look, she ate 3-pointers against UConn for the first time. Nobody's done that since 2009. So, and then absolutely ice in her veins. They come back, make it within one possession. Of course, then AZ Fud has to go and do her big one, which, like, again, I can't help but support as well. So in the end, I was just like, good basketball is here. And also everybody on my Twitter is talking about Silah Swords, Canadian, youngest basketball player to ever, represent Canada at the Olympics. We're just here and we're ready for the Silah Swords era.
So nobody was talking bad about Silah is what I'm hearing, because they were all excited about her on Twitter.
Look, it wasn't nobody was talking bad. Y'all just didn't I don't know. I feel like people don't talk about her as much.
People don't talk about almost anyone enough.
That's true.
People talk about 3 players that are pushed by a national narrative if that's what you're following. But that's why you gotta just.
That's why you listen to her. Who
you gotta know where to look. Yeah, exactly.
Come on now.
You gotta know where you're looking.
No, jokes aside, no. I don't even know what the jokes aside point was.
No,
being.
don't. She was hooping. That's
she
what.
Was hooping.
No, that's
like that's facts. Like that is indisputable.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, 100%.
This
Big
is
game
like
side.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this was an interesting game because Michigan kind of crept their way up the rankings, just in general. But like, they weren't in any like they were 6 going into this game. They still remain 6 with the new rankings today. Like,
which, given the fact that they went 3-1, no 2-1, yeah, they won 2, lost 1 against the number 1. Like the fact that they stayed put is like impressive.
Yeah, like but no, they're not in like national title conversations. Like they haven't been at all. Like they have not been in that discord. It's pretty well cut off at like the top 5 for that. And so this was an interesting game because I mean when you look back to last season when Michigan, like this is a team that just like they would be in big games. Like they were sticking around against good teams. But they just did not have the stamina to kind of like close any of them out. Like they did not get like that signature win last year to kind of like truly announce themselves. They just gave a lot of people scares. And like it looked real. They just didn't have the endurance to last the entire way with such a young team. And this game, frankly, that first quarter comes and goes, and I'm like, oh man, like they maybe they're not ready for the moment. Like that's the immediate thought. Like maybe it's not this year either, you know. And we got too ahead of ourselves a little bit. But then the rest of that way, they just kept clawing back, and it was frankly the opposite of what we saw. Normally, it was the fourth quarters of games last year where they just did not have the stamina to kind of keep up with these top teams the entire game. This time they claw all the way back, and the defense in the third quarter was phenomenal. Like I mean, obviously Sila goes stupid with the threes. They were just flare screen after flare screen, just popping those threes. Like it was phenomenal with that. And I'm interested now, like what the expectation of Michigan becomes because, I mean, again, you had one of the worst first quarters I've ever seen, and you were able to go against UConn and only lose by 3 and take it down to the absolute end of the game, the wire of this. So I'm interested in like how the discussion shifts with Michigan. I think it'll certainly be dependent on how they do in the Big Ten because I mean, look, UCLA is rightfully the Big Ten favorite, like 100%.
Yeah.
It might not be as cut and dry though, and as simple as maybe we had anticipated with some of it. Just because, I mean, Michigan is not the only team in the Big Ten that's looked solid either. But I'm very intrigued in just like what Michigan looks like the rest of this way because it doesn't feel like they need a big in order to like I think truly like compete on like a national title level. But if you told me that these players go on a run, I'm also not gonna be surprised at all. Like they have like that capability on the perimeter with their guards.
Yeah, I keep saying I think they have like the ability to be like a dark horse for like an upset come postseason. Like I don't know if I would confidently say like Final Four or like
I'd love an Elite
contender.
8. I'd be very happy with an Elite 8 for them.
Yes, and I do think they have the potential to upset another ranked team in either of these tournaments and like have a great run like you said and make it farther than they have in many seasons, and I think that's going to be exciting. And for the fact that their core are all sophomores at the moment, that in itself being that improvement from last season, and like if they were to get into like week 2, week 3 of the tournament, whatever it is, that would be success for this season for them, I think.
I mean, it's super similar, like having been through basically this exact scenario just 1 year prior for Iowa State, where like you bring in this really great group of freshmen that maybe people don't exactly know what to expect. You have very much some up and downs, and then you go into sophomore season and expectations are really high. And I think to Michigan's credit, they've been very prepared for that. And I mean, look, who among us hasn't sat through a fourth quarter or a first quarter like that against UConn at Mohegan Sun? Certainly not me.
Yeah,
but
never. That would never happen to you.
But no. I think what strikes me with Michigan is that they went out and they absolutely waxed Notre Dame, who has their own issues, you know, but they're still a very solid team, and they showed off really solid defense in addition to obviously high-powered offense. And so then when you follow that up with keeping it very, very close with a UConn team that's a favorite in a lot of ways this season, I think that the people or the teams that kind of fly outside of a lot of these national conversations are rightly the ones that don't see a lot of competition in the non-con or haven't yet. And that's simply not Michigan. And so I think that, Tyler, your point, they do lack a little bit on the interior for some of the matchups they likely will see. But the fact that they can pressure so well on the perimeter, pick up pace, and they have so many players who are really versatile can, to a point, help to kind of control that. I don't think it can completely negate it, but they're going to have the ability to be competitive with anyone.
Sure.
And so it's definitely going to be something once we get back into conference play, since they won't really have any significant challenges, more likely than not, going forward now until they get into conference play. But they saw the solid competition that's going to prepare them for conference play. And so at that point, I mean, they're going to have a chance in every game.
Yeah. Great scheduling, honestly, from, Michigan, like making sure that you get a few of these top matchups, but also giving yourself now the time to ride out the rest of non-conference and then go into a conference like the Big Ten. I mean, when we're talking about improving scheduling for some of these teams, like I think they did it pretty well, where you have that balance of, testing yourself and making sure that you're preparing for conference and in postseason, but also not, doing it in a way that's going to hurt your selection chances. Yeah. And
Agreed.
I mean, agree. To go back to rankings a bit, I mean, something that obviously Jamie will like to hear is, and also all of our other Iowa State fans in the in the chat, but yeah, Iowa State top 10, which absolutely, as a outside perspective, deserves to be there. Great start, 7-0. They look fantastic.
Well,
big. She's like,
and Iowa right behind them. I'm about to instigate. I'm ready for that game. Best rivalry in women's basketball.
It's true.
I will say I'm always happy to see Iowa State get respect. I don't really worry too much about it until there's an opportunity to see it for sure. Well, no, look,
this is
you want to talk about.
We don't hear the outside noise.
No. You want to talk about scheduling. There hasn't been like a significant challenge yet, and so. You can't really call anything for real until you see that. And so at the very least, like you see a Marquette team that's, I mean, absurdly experienced, the only team in the country that's brought back every single player from last year. And so that's at least something. And then either Gonzaga or Indiana. So at least that's like a little bit more than what we've seen so far. But the real challenge is probably not going to be, exactly to your point, Tyler, until the Cyhawk game, which is apparently also the Jimmy V Women's Classic game.
Oh.
Which is...
How many lower thirds is this game going to have?
Look,
I shout out.
I looked at the schedule, and I'm pretty sure it's because they do like a men's event that's like on site, and they actually organize all of it. But a couple years back, they started adding a women's game into the mix, but it's like a hosted game. They just designate it, and there's no other top 25 matchups that week. So they just looked at the calendar and said, "That's the one."
Here, damn, and gave the women's game.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm ready for that game. I might have to make my way out for that. I want to go to the. I still haven't. Is that? Iowa State or Iowa?
It's in Ames. Come through. I'll clean up the not set up guest room.
Ooh,
I'll get it done.
The boots might have to be on the ground for that. That's real hate. That's real hate. Yeah, I think that, and then like Oklahoma State, Oklahoma is like in like the same weekend.
I'm so glad they're playing.
Yes,
I'm so glad those two teams are
playing. That game might set the 3-point record.
It's gonna be a home and away, but for Tyler and Jamie.
Yeah, the home and home travel.
Tyler goes to Iowa, Jamie goes to Oklahoma, and nobody comes to travel.
I'm excited. Yeah, they're playing that game at OKC at a neutral, like right in between the two schools. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm excited. But yeah, no, Iowa State. I mean, Audi's ridiculous. I mean, not that it's like anything new, like it's not news, but like it's like I've really like tried to like make it a point this year, whether it be with Audi or like a Sarah Strong, like I don't want these things to become like normalized, like just because they do it all the time. Like there's been some like ridiculous, or like a Hannah Hidalgo, like with the steals that she's putting up with the like. There's so many like genuinely incredible statistical performances going on, and they're almost becoming regular. And I don't want that to feel regular because it's not regular. These type of performances don't happen like this. And I'm trying my best to not let it like become normal to me that these players are doing this.
It was literally our pregame show on the day that I broke the school record for points. We heavily discussed that exact idea of like just not normalizing it and trying to like really call out how impressive it is what she's doing, what a lot of players are doing. And then she proceeded to drop 43 points in just under 20 minutes. And I like look at my broadcast partner, I'm like, man, that was pretty well timed, I guess. Like,
you can take credit for that, I think, right?
It's actually, like I can and will, because I predicted it before the game. I turned to him.
The opposite of the broadcaster's curse.
We got a little whisper that the rumor was that the game plan was to play her single coverage the entire game. And I looked at him and I said,
strategy.
If that is the case, we'll just mark it down.
It's the first ever broadcaster's blessing.
And then the next game, my broadcast partner called that we were going to get the first triple-double in over a decade, and it happened.
Come on now.
Period.
Can y'all I'm gonna send you a couple things I need you to manifest over here. So if y'all could lock in on the pregame show, that would be lovely.
When we start digressing into like talking about Oklahoma, people are like, yo,
I got a couple things to manifest over here. If you hear anything on the pregame show that seems a little bit out of random,
start talking about the Toronto tempo. People are like, what? Yeah. You're like, why are they talking about the Toronto Tempo? They don't even have a team yet. And Jamie's like, I don't know.
Frankly, with the way that our broadcasts go, I don't think that it would even make a blip on the radar.
Yeah. To kind of bring these two conversations together, something popped into my head. We're talking about the CBA and how draft rules could change or whatever. What do you two think about the idea of changing draft eligibility and taking off draft? Because I'm curious, because everybody has opinions on it, and with players that are as good as some of the players that we're seeing in the college basketball landscape, there's always going to be someone that's like, they should be able to go to the WNBA, blah, 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 blah. So I'm curious, do you think that should actually happen?
I don't think so. One, because I mean, do you see what type of mess you got going on the W right now? Like, would I want to leave early for that? You know, like I think that there's something special about where the women's game is right now, where you genuinely have like this excitement, like when each year, like you have another class going in this way that's like, it feels unique in that, and like on top of what the college game has, and I feel like the college game has been able to offer so much in terms of like the growth of women's basketball, in the sense of when you stick around, obviously the transfer portal has become a thing, so like, you know, it switches and whatnot, but like I feel like there's been the foundation that these players get for fan bases, for obviously just as a player and everything, like growing in that time, like there's not as like it's so built in to what college athletics are in having that fan base. So, like if you go and star at pretty much any school, that school is going to respond to you. Like that's those fan bases are going to respond to you in that way. And I hesitate about doing that, especially now you have NIL involved, because these players are getting paid. You know, that'd be the one thing beforehand where I'm like, well, yeah, go get paid. Like, don't waste your time, quote unquote, not getting paid and playing for free. I don't want to do that. Now that NIL's here, I think it's special the way women's basketball is with the college aspect and all that. So I would hesitate to do that. I feel like they would have repercussions that we don't even like anticipate really in terms of like the growth of the game.
And I think that it mostly, I could be totally off base, because obviously as much as it sounds like it, I can't see the future, but I feel like it wouldn't really have that many significant effects to do so, because exactly like you're saying, Tyler, like you have the ability to make money now as a college player. You have the ability to, develop. Also for women, like you aren't fully physically mature until generally multiple years after you graduate college even. So like, I feel like it would be generally a disservice to push the idea of leaving college early. Like, I mean, I don't think that anyone should be forced to play anywhere, do anything, but I think that in general for players in the United States, if the expectation is that you're going to be going to college and then all of a sudden you open it up and say, well, you can leave college early, I don't think that for almost anyone that would actually be advisable. And so then you end up with people who are getting bad advice, potentially deciding to do so, and that can kind of script your career. Like, I just don't think it would really change much, at least domestically. For me, I think the biggest consideration to be made is the way that the rules apply to overseas prospects and the fact that it's so incongruous with what we see in America now that there are a lot of overseas prospects coming over. And so I think that things potentially should be evened out a little bit, streamlined as far as that goes. But as far as like allowing people to leave college, there's just frankly not much of a point to it at all.
Yeah, and I feel like people have these conversations and it's really only about like the top, say like 1% of these players. It's about the Jujus, it's about the Sarah Strongs. And there's definitely a case to say that like some of those players would benefit from being able to go to the WNBA whenever they want to. But at the same time, yeah, I definitely agree with both of you where in terms of fandom, it's really great. In terms of the fact that we now have NIL, it's really great. And I think there is so much benefit to, there's also the factor of like the rule of them having to get their degree as well. Like, I think there should still be an importance on education through all of this. And like, not to say that it's the most important thing in the world, but like, yeah, like you set a lot of these players up for success when you have them get a degree before they go off into the professional world and kind of have that foundation. And also have now with NIL and like college basketball being such a thing, you have so much more of a chance to like almost train and prepare yourself for professional life before you even get there. And I think that might help mentally a lot with a lot of these players too, especially when you have these players like Juju and like Sarah Strong, Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, et cetera, where you kind of got that like not trial run, because it's still very much like a real thing, but you kind of have that space before you go professional to test the waters of like being a professional. And so, yeah, I agree. I don't think they should change.
You develop as a player, but also as a person. And like, as you say, could there be benefit to going pro early? Maybe, but like, I just don't think there's any additional benefit to going pro early that you can't get as a college student. Exactly. And without the kind of restriction, like in college, you have the transfer portal. Like, you screw up, you decide you want something different, you can go. That you don't have that under the current rookie scale contract.
No.
Who knows what's gonna be the case
so you don't even know if you have a roster spot.
Required disclaimer, but that's the thing, is that I don't think there's any additional benefit that would be to going pro early. No one's saying that there aren't players in college that could contribute at the pro level. That is a fact.
Yeah.
But would it actually benefit them? Because that's what, to me, matters the most in this conversation is the well-being of the individual player.
Also, could you imagine the W trying to handle like just like the influx of talent? Like, let's just say like, all right, this year, everyone, you're good. Go ahead. If you want to go ahead. Everyone go. Like, obviously, we don't know the CBA. Like, that's always the asterisk with all these conversations right now.
We still don't have 200 roster spots, but everybody go.
But do you like imagine like all the top players just going this year? Like, what would you even like? The WNBA would not be able to handle that. Like just from an infrastructure standpoint, I don't trust the WNBA.
The mid-level seniors graduating this year would be like hello,
huh?
Yeah. No, like, I mean, the players you'd have going in like the second round of that draft, like the hypothetical draft where everyone's available. Like, I mean, like, you know, like, it's just, I don't really know, like, even if you were to do that, like if they change it, I don't even know the best way you implement that. Like, how many years advance? Like, how do you even do that?
That's assuming that people do it. Like, all of that is assuming people do it.
Sure.
Again, I don't think anyone that's getting good advice would go through with it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And I think like not to bring men into this conversation, but like, I do think we're going to see the benefit of a lot of players staying longer in college as NIL grows on the men's side, because that's starting to become a trend where people are staying in college longer in the men's side. And like, there's a few, I mean, most of the names I would spit out would be Toronto people, so I won't, just to, save everybody from that. But like, Me?
Not you.
Not me.
Toronto?
Not me talking about Toronto. But I will say I have seen the benefit. There is a benefit in some cases when you're kind of one of those second round later people to waiting and developing yourself as a person and as a player through college longer before you draft.
There's a lot of benefit. Like
a ton.
You come in much more pro ready, and so that's the thing is like I don't follow men's basketball barely a lick, but like I at least know that much, and that's what I've seen over the years in women's basketball, and part of why I've always stayed so much more engaged with women's basketball is that you do have that level of consistency, you do have that level of development. And so I just think that that's a really good point of like if you see a trend of people starting to stay longer on the men's side. So for all the people who want to kind of hold up men's sports as just because they've been treated as the default, that means that everything they do is the best thing. Wrong. But if you want to say that, then look at the trends there, see that people are staying longer because there are benefits to being in college. And there's just, it's making issues out of nothing right now. There's so many more like pressing things to address in the WNBA.
And then the CBA as we are seeing. Oh man. But I'm curious because people like to have that conversation a lot, especially about like people like Sarah, Juju, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously having two informed people who follow college and the WNBA very closely, it's a fun conversation to have. But unfortunately, our time is coming to an end. Very sad. Because we can only yap for so long before BMAC starts to give me the signals.
We won't keep you hostage, BMAC.
Yeah, no. But thank you so much for watching this fun reunion of our old podcast format. It's always so fun to get in the virtual room with these two and chop it up and joke and blame Americans for things. Apologies to Americans for blah, 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 blah.
No, it's okay. You don't have to do that.
Happy Thanksgiving, all of this stuff. Thank you for making my workload a little bit lighter this week by celebrating a holiday at the wrong time. Appreciate you. Also, thank you for bringing Black Friday into my life, etc.
You're welcome. From capitalism in America, I say you're welcome.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for watching the Her Hoop Stats podcast for today. You can follow Tyler and Jamie and myself on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, here. We all still podcast here, just not together as much as we used to. So make sure to subscribe here to the Her Hoop Stats podcast, wherever you're listening. Make sure to head to herhoopstats.com, subscribe to our newsletter to see and read all of the great news that is coming out from our team. Subscribe here. We do podcasts Monday through Friday every day. And it's a great time, especially when there's so much women's basketball to talk about. But for this special press break reunion episode, I'm Chelsea Leite. This is Tyler. This is Jamie. And thank you so much for watching.